Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear. It is day 2 of GearFest 2015 here at Sweetwater. Special guest has dropped by. Mike Stern is here. Glad to see you.
Glad to see you.
Thanks for being here. We're so excited to have you. You're doing a workshop with Nathan East later today.
Yeah, it should be fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely.
So 6 Grammy nominations, all kinds of awards, Downbeat's top 75 jazz guitarists of all time, guitar player certified, legend, all these awards, and a tremendous career. You started out in Boston, right? Moved to Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, well, I was born in Boston, then I grew up in D.C., and then went back to Boston when I went to Berklee College of Music, and I've been playing guitar since I was 12, and grooving with it. You know, I mainly started off listening to rockers and blues players and a lot of Motown music, stuff that I was listening to on the radio.
Right.
And then I got into jazz. My mom used to play jazz records around the house, so I started getting into that music and fell in love with it. So.
Were you into jazz before you went to Berklee?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you already had kind of a foundation established?
Kind of, not much, and that really helped me. But I was going in that direction.
Right.
And it helped all my music just to get into that. It was more challenging for me. So, but I love all kinds of music. I like, really enjoy blues, of course, is kind of probably glues everything together for me.
Right.
And then a lot of rock stuff and anything that gets my heart, I'm into.
Right, right. So how did you, the first band that kind of, from the outside it looks like launched your career was Blood, Sweat, and Tears. How did you make that connection and end up in that band?
Well, actually it was Pat Metheny. I was studying with him some at Berklee, and he said, and it was an amazing musician, and he was always, I was kind of shy at the time, wondering if I could make this work. I just knew I wanted to play. I was going to figure out how to make it work one way or the other.
Right.
And I got some lessons with him, and he really liked my playing, something about my playing, even though I was hitting all wrong notes. There was something he liked. So he's very supportive, and he said that he heard about an audition with Blood, Sweat, and Tears after I'd been studying with him for like a year or so. He mentioned that, and he said that he was going to try to hook me up with the audition. And I got the audition, and I didn't think I'd get the gig. I thought I'd just go there and learn what it was like to audition with a major kind of band, because I'd never done anything like that before on that level. And I got the gig, lo and behold.
Nice.
And then I played with them for a couple of years, and that was really a pleasure.
Really, and then from there, Billy Cobham?
Then Billy Cobham, which was great.
Kind of a totally different thing there, though, right?
Yeah, but it's similar stuff. There's a bunch of similarities in music, But Billy was amazing, a special drummer, and still is. I mean, just always will be. And so that was really fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then Miles heard me with Billy Cobham.
Okay.
Actually, I was playing with a great saxophone player, Bill Evans, who I still play with, and we do projects together. We're actually playing at Newport this year, Newport Jazz Festival.
Nice.
And Bill's a great musician, and he was playing with Miles, and we were doing the little tiny gig in Boston. He came up to Boston to play, and that's the first time I met him, and he said, well, I'm playing with Miles. I didn't even believe him.
Yeah.
And he said, we're getting ready to go on the road, and the guitar player that's with Miles, they're not getting along personally. I knew the guitar player was amazing, a wonderful player, but it didn't work out personally, so Miles was looking for somebody else, and then Bill brought Miles to a Billy Cobham gig that I was doing in New York about a few months later, and then Miles hired me. So.
Right. That had to be exciting.
Yeah, very. And I was a nervous wreck, too, playing with him, because he's such an idol of mine, Right. But all these guys were, so it was, but it was really, I've been very fortunate to play with some amazing musicians.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
and today with Nathan East, who I love,
Yeah, incredible.
We played together some, just at another NAMM show, but he's like smoking musician, just a wonderful musician, so we're going to have a ball today.
Right. You've done so many solo albums, and one thing that's been kind of consistent from the beginning, for me anyway, the first album I heard solo from you was Upside Downside, and you've always had the stereo amplifiers with the SPX90, the stereo chorus going on there. What drew you to that stereo?
Just
tone?
because it sounds more like a horn to me, or some more of a singing kind of sound. And somehow, when I hear a horn or a vocalist, or there's air in the music naturally, and when you hear something coming out of a bell of a horn, it seems to go not so directly. It kind of immediately goes kind of in the air and gets some kind of ambiance naturally. And I try to get that with the guitar, you know. And sometimes with one amp it's cool if you're kind of far enough away from it, you'll get that. But sometimes it kind of beams, and so two amps seem to kind of to get that spacier sound, a little bit more space in it. So that's what I'm trying to get, is that kind of thing. I've always been kind of a fan of that, and kind of a more legato kind of a sound. I play that like that anyway if I'm playing just through one amp or just acoustic guitar. I don't play with my fingers, but I play with a pick, but kind of light. You know, so it has that kind of effect. And then this kind of enhances it, that chorus that I use, which is not really a chorus, it's actually a harmonizer patch, but I use it as the chorus.
So you have one side up a little bit, one side down a little bit?
Kind of. I guess it's something like that. I'm not even sure what it does, but it works. You know, you find something that I think whatever works for you. You know, with sound, as long as you can get your if the ultimate thing with music is to play your heart out. You know, and to play from the heart, and whatever kind of helps you do that and inspires you to do that sound-wise, and then who you play with and the kind of music you play, and it's all about that as the kind of goal.
Right. Your last few records, speaking of, or album, I still call them records. The last few albums, yeah, you've, speaking of that, diversifying things and working with different artists, you've had a bunch of different artists on Big Neighborhood and all over the place. What drew you to want to have people like Steve Vai and Eric Johnson?
Well, you know, that was a kind of something that I've always wanted to do. I've always dug Steve Vai, you know, and Eric. I've always dug them both very much. And so I actually talked to Eric about doing something years ago, and I went to one of his gigs in New York, and he said, you know, introduced myself. Oh, I know you're playing, you know, that kind of thing. So, and then we were talking about doing something. So it finally kind of happened that this record I wanted to do with different people, definitely a couple of different guitar players that I normally don't play with. So I asked Eric, and he said, totally cool. And then Steve Vai said the same thing. And then Steve Vai said I didn't even know he went to Berkeley. And he used to hear me in Boston, he said. So he said, yeah, I'd love to do it. And so it was really great to get those cats on the record. And I figured it would really work. And I had some tunes that I thought it would be right for them to play, although those guys could play anything. And so it kind of worked out, you know. And Steve's a great cat. He's funny, very centered guy. And same with Eric. Eric's beautiful. And then with Eric, we actually did a record together more recently called Eclectic. Which is a good title for the way we both feel about music. We like all kinds of music, and it kind of feels like that on the record. I mean, there's a lot of different kind of styles or combinations of styles of music. And it's kind of the way where Eric's coming from and I'm coming from. So we had a ball, and then we did some touring.
I saw you in Los Angeles
back
in
January.
at the Grove.
Yeah, that was really fun.
Yeah, it was fun watching you guys, because you're very different kinds of players. Stylistically, you're different, but somehow you made that work.
Yeah. No, we have a lot of common.
Yeah, the blues is very common to that.
I like the fact that there's a lot of common ground, but there's it's totally different styles. Not totally, but very, very easy to tell apart kind of styles. And so that worked beautifully, you know, to me. And I really dig where Eric's coming from.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, watching you, it was clear that both of you were having a great time, and it wasn't a competitive thing. There was a lot of respect there as well.
Yeah, yeah, totally,
Yeah.
totally.
Going into a situation like that, do you find your playing changes when you play with somebody who's coming from a little different place than you, or do you have you still do yours and it adapts, or how does that work?
Well, my playing, sometimes I think both of us kind of learn from each other, but you kind of play the way you play after so many years, and you try to make little adaptations and also play the tune. We're always we've talked about that. He's very much into that too, and he heard that in my playing, that we try to play whatever the tune is as the kind of the palette.
Right.
And then you try to make some music within that and then do your thing. So, but yeah, man, I learned a lot from him, and he said the same. We both got inspired. So hopefully we're going to do some more of it.
Right.
Because I want to learn more.
Yeah.
He's a bad man. I love his playing.
Oh, it was clear you guys were having a ball.
Yeah, we had a ball, yeah.
The other interesting thing watching you is sometimes when you have two high-level, very accomplished musicians, soloists in the same group, they don't necessarily, everybody wants to play, so they don't necessarily allow each other space. You guys allowed each other a lot of space to play, and you're both very accomplished rhythm players as well, but there was a lot of open space there.
Yeah.
How do you develop your ear to listen to when to allow space for somebody else and when you should jump up and push them and those kind of things?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it's just probably just a kind of instinctive call of that you make. It's not every gig is the same. Sometimes somebody doesn't feel like playing so much, so you just jump in and say, well, then I'll play because I feel like playing tonight. But most of the time, both of us wanted to play. We were both chopping at the bit to play and to listen to each other. And there was plenty of room in that context. It's harder if it's a bigger band, and this was just quartet, so everybody got a chance to play. The bass player was featured, and we kind of set it up that way because that's what we knew what we wanted to do is play. And so no, we weren't going to try to play 10 tunes. We played 5 tunes in a set or 6 or something, and stretch out, which I love to do. And Eric can go forever. I mean, he can play forever, and so
it's always fresh.
Yeah, and I've been playing for years and have you get a vocabulary kind of and learn new stuff all the time, and you want to try it out, and so that's what was happening. We were jamming, so it was that kind of vibe. So that's kind of how you do it, and try to be. I always like to go on the road with different players that'll basically kick my. That's what I want, is for them to, inspire the hell out of me, and I always get my kick basically with the guys I play with generally, and learn a lot, and it's fun as hell.
Oh yeah. The album Eclectic and the tour also featured your vocal debut.
Yeah.
Red House.
Yeah, Red House, and then Wishing Well I sang on, which I was actually which is one of my tunes, and I actually sang that I wanted Christopher Cross to sing the whole thing, and he heard me sing it, and he said, well, I'll sing on the bridge, but you sound great on the A sections of the tune, so just leave that. And I was very, very happy to hear that he thought that, because he's an amazing singer, that cat.
Yeah.
And so and Eric and he have known each other, they've known each other for ages. So he's on that tune of mine. And then Red House, me and Eric, I sang the first verse, he sang the second verse, and then we split the third verse.
Right.
And it was fun as hell. And Eric really sings his ass off, but he kind of nudged me to sing, and I've been getting into a little bit since I've known Richard Bona, who's an incredible vocalist and bass player from Cameroon.
Sure.
Lives in New York now and does tours all over the world with his own band, and sometimes we get to play. We've done projects together, and
he's on Big Neighborhood, and
he's on Big Neighborhood. He's on all over the place, and we did a DVD together, me and him, and Dennis Chambers, a phenomenal drummer, and Bob Franceschini was playing tenor, and and Richard heard me sing, just kind of, because sometimes I sing along, like I try to get a vocal sound, like I say, so I try to sing along sometimes with the guitar, even if it's not mic'd. And he heard me just playing around with it. He said, you got a good voice, you should sing for real. And I was kind of shy about it, but he kind of nudged me, so I started a little bit.
That's great. Yeah. New chapter.
Yeah, trying.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
So you have a somewhat unconventional choice for a jazz guitarist. You playing a Telecaster style guitar, but your Yamaha you've been using for many, many years.
Yeah.
What is it about Yamaha that drew you to the company?
I dig it, man. I mean, they've been, you know, the guitars that I played. Even I remember this cat named Hoggy that used to work with them, who was a you know, legend sales guy, and you know, and he used to work with the drums. He brought some guitars when I was playing with Miles, and this before I hooked up with Yamaha, and he brought some guitars that they were making when I was playing with Miles Davis, and I was in Japan, and he said, try this out, and I said, man, that's a great guitar. And it's a really wonderful guitar, and so this was years ago. So then when Yamaha said they were interested in making a Mike Stern model, I said, great, you know. And then I gave them a guitar that they modeled this guitar after, and this is probably a better guitar. That one's really good. And that was modeled after a guitar that I used to have from Roy Buchanan. That was an incredible guitar, and it got stolen, unfortunately. It was Danny Gatton also. I bought it from Danny Gatton, who was an incredible guitar player.
Sure.
And Roy, it was Roy's guitar. And Danny bought it from Roy, and then I bought it from Danny because he wanted to buy a used car. This is back when a guitar cost like $400 or something. It probably would have been worth thousands now.
Right.
And some guy stole it
from
me, unfortunately. So, but then somebody had seen me play that guitar and made a guitar like that, and then Yamaha took that guitar and kind of, I said, can you make it something like this, when they wanted to make a guitar for me, and they did an amazing job. Sent me a bunch of prototypes, which were all good, and then one that I really liked.
Really nailed it.
And now the ones that they sell are just awesome. You know, they've got some new thing going on where they age the wood faster, some electric way, and dip it in some kind of weird formula. I don't know what, 27 herbs and spices. I don't know what it is, but they really sound good. So I've been a fan of their stuff. I find that and I have a cat that does the sound for me, named Kevin Kaufman, who's a luthier also. So he knows all this stuff. He used to build all the Jaco Pastorius. I was playing with Jaco Pastorius, an amazing bass player for years, and he was a great friend of mine. And Kevin used to do all the work for him. And when Jaco would trash a bass, Kevin would put it back together. Right. And he said, so he really knows, he's a great luthier, and he knows the wood and all. And he checked out all these Yamaha. He says, man, these are really good guitars, really well made, really good wood, really good pickups, blah, 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 blah. And so that was interesting to hear from his perspective as well.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Sure. So it's been working out really
That's great.
Good. Yeah.
That's great. Mike, we're so glad you're here.
Yeah,
I appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us and have a little chat.
This is a cool spot too, man.
Thank you.
Sweetwater.
Yeah,
this
it's pretty amazing, isn't it?
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, we're glad you're here and looking forward to your workshop with Nathan East today. It's just been an incredible pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
I'm Mitch Gallagher. Thanks for joining me for Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear.